To talk about Indo-US trade ties, the India growth story, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States, we're joined in New York at the moment by the former Chief Executive of the Niti Aayog, Professor of Economics at Columbia University, Dr. Arvind Panagra. Thank you very much, sir, for making the effort of joining us here in New York as we track Prime Minister Modi's big visit. I want to start by asking you about your sense of this particular visit. Coming as it does at a time when both India and the United States are building up towards a big general election next year. President Biden seems to be rolling out the red carpet for India and for Prime Minister Modi.
Absolutely. I have not seen this kind of buzz for almost 50 years now. I've been here in America since 1974, and so I have seen several prime ministers visit, but this is completely on a different scale.
The Economist magazine calls this the world's biggest transaction. You're a professor of economics. Is that what it seems like to you? A transactional relationship between India and the United States?
Well, transactions are part of the relationship, but that's not all that it is. So it is really building a much bigger relationship. The world is changing, the global economy is changing, global politics is changing, and big development. So it is all a part of that. It's not just a pure transaction.
America is once again India's largest trade partner. Position for long occupied by China. Now America edging out China once again. There was a lot of talk about a mini trade deal between India and the United States previously. Now we're not hearing much about that. What are you making of India-America trade ties at this moment?
So they're certainly on the upswing. And today, I think, for the latest year, our bilateral trade is anywhere, when you put together goods and services, about 180 billion. We don't have the latest figures, but that's my rough estimate. About 130 billion of merchandise, that is goods, and about 50 billion of services. So it's very large, not getting significantly larger than China. As far as the trade deal is concerned, that's often a technical negotiation. So usually if anything does happen, it would be negotiated by the teams down below, not between the Prime Minister and the President. But there is a lot of scope for sure for mutually beneficial negotiation in a number of areas.
We're also seeing a lot of buzz around transfer of technology in critical areas of emerging technology. How significant is that as India tries to catch up with China, muscle up on its technical prowess? The fact that the United States is now willing to share technology, which so far it wasn't willing to share with India.
Absolutely. No, we really have to see this in the longer term perspective, that this is really laying down the foundation of much bigger things to come. But some of the taboos are being broken now, that some of the technology that the US was not willing to share with us, it is now beginning to share. This has been an ongoing process, but I think this is a bigger one. The drones that we are buying, the Predator drones, also the GE engines that will now be built in India. All of it is part of that movement. There is big scope for, in microchip industry, in space industry, in nuclear industry, quantum computing, whatnot. So the field is vast, and I think we'll see a lot of this down the road as we go in the next several years.
Micron is looking to invest $1 billion on semiconductor manufacturing in India. We've already seen Vedanta make an announcement as well. Do you think this will help India catch up in this critical area of semiconductors, given how much we lag at this moment?
We have been very, very far behind. We should have been in this 20 years ago at least. So quite a ways to go. But as we did, for example, in mobile technology and mobile telephony, etc. This was about 15 years ago. We leapfrogged. Practically from fixed line, we never actually expanded that into the entire country. We have only 10 million, 15 million telephone lines, and then we leapfrogged into 1 billion mobile phones. And that's the kind of leapfrogging we need to do here also. And I think we are sort of ready for it. We are poised for it. And some of our manufacturers, Tatas, etc., they are also building in microchip industry. So I think, it's a good time.
I interviewed Dr. Raghuram Rajan at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and he was quite critical of the production-linked incentives that the Modi government has come out with, saying that the value add is very little. We're just subsidizing international companies, making it more profitable for them to be in India, even if it's largely assembly rather than genuine manufacturing. How do you respond to the criticism around the manner in which the PLI schemes are structured at the moment?
Look, if you want to give production subsidy, I don't see what other way is there which would be better. Because, and I like to think in terms of protection versus production subsidy. If those are your two options, then production subsidy, at least you can target to the more productive firms, larger scale firms. When you do this kind of import substitution through protection, then in effect you are encouraging all sorts of firms. So I don't see what is a better way to subsidize. Now one can ask the question whether we ought to subsidize at all. Now that's a more complicated question. On that one, my own personal view is that ultimately we need to fix all our processes, our factor markets, labor markets, land markets.
But are you disappointed with the lack of progress there? I mean, surely you are. The fact that the Prime Minister in his first government tried the land reform bill, that didn't go as per plan, farm reform as well, saw big pushback, and now possibly the government's lost the appetite to want to take such a big panga.
No. I think on that you are being extremely selective. The Land Acquisition Act effort was Prime Minister's first big effort. And I was there, I was at Niti Aayog, and the whole meeting, with the chief ministers of the states happened at Niti Aayog. So I know that story quite well. So he couldn't get the cooperation. They didn't have the votes in Rajya Sabha then. I wish we had not tried that, because now going back on that one is harder. Otherwise today it could be done.
But even farm law.
So therefore I would say that farm law is the only one where we got a surprise. But you tell me, in the last 30 years, so many reforms have been enacted by the parliament. Have you seen on any single reform actually, the demonstrations happening and all? Farm laws is only one exception, and which is what every critic kind of tries to point to. But quite the contrary, people have supported the reforms, even labor law reforms, which we used to think would be the most contentious. Vajpayee government actually put it on the table and then took it off the table at the time. They've been enacted. They still need to be kind of informed, they notified and all, because still a couple of states are lagging behind in writing their rules and regulations. But, this was seen as the most contentious reform has been done. So I don't buy this line at all, that reforms are very difficult politically and all. If you do it the right way, and farm laws, we can, have a full conversation on this actually, this was a completely unanticipated thing that happened, because otherwise there was across the board consensus. I mean, the Congress party in 2019 manifesto has all the three reforms listed there. So, they not turn around and say that, the consultation was not done and what not. But, 17 years this was going on actually, the whole reform started in 2003 under Prime Minister Vajpayee. With the state level model law that they wrote, which was adopted at least partially by several states. Sure. So the whole thing was ongoing.
So after spending time in government, you're back in academia.
Yes.
What's more fun, being in government or being in the world of books and studies?
Both have their attractions. So I'm a happy man either way. But certainly that experience of about 3 years working with Prime Minister Modi was certainly the most exhilarating one for for me professionally, So absolutely nothing else can match that. But having done that, I'm also happy to be back here.
Dr. Pannagria, thank you very much for your time.
Really thank you.
Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.